Yeah, greetings everyone. Welcome to Ikhambi Natural Healing. Igama Menzi Maseko. Ngihamba no Nelly Kankosi. And today we are bringing you Mkhulu Nsingiza. We are very glad and happy and honored to bring Mkhulu Nsingiza to you as we still are within the season of Anpu, the letter we call Anpu. We sifuna nje ukuthi sazi kabanzi from someone who is one of the great authorities of the Kemetic school of thought, the Kemetic tradition in the southern parts, in the southern hemisphere, Mkhulu Nsingiza. So we'd like to welcome you to Ikhambi, Mkhulu. Welcome. Yes, thokoza kakhulu. Mkhulu, ngicela ukuqala nje, the questions will be very random, but they will be focused on what we are dealing with. Mkhulu, when did you first come across this Kemetic teachings? What brought you into the Kemetic teachings exactly? Let's ask it that way.
I think, the first time in terms of content, it was about Credo. But the concept, Naitola from Mizovuga Zuzinzi. Zuzinzi grew up, are obsessed with Tutankhamun. I believe as a so So one of these days, then Umama relates the story to me. She's been very obsessed with Tutankhamun. But then, interest started developing there for me to want to know more about, that history. Fortunately, both of us were close to Babu Credo. Then we went to Babu Credo. That's when we got now the foundation of all the content. The little bits that we had gathered ourselves, Babu Credo then revealed almost the whole canon, our spiritual canon. I link and Kemet, even saying good Kemet didn't start there in the north, it started here. Yeah, so for us, it was a revelation.
Wow. That is quite amazing because people always look at, generally in the mainstream, people always look at Kemet as the high point of civilization. Yet the highest point was in more ancient times was here.
Oh no, certainly, because everything started here in the south. Not only Ubab Credo says so, but scientific. Artifacts that have been found in the southern hemisphere, as an example, the Libombo bone. The Libombo bone is that scientific, artifact, which then confirms, the beginning of civilization to be the southern part of Kemet. We call Kemet, it as Africa.
Yes.
We've renamed the Africa Kemet. So the southern part of Kemet, Yoge, and also Inzaloelang. Inzaloelang, it's one of those, scientific sites where it needs to be studied properly for us to truly understand, the thinking Yabokoko, we know, there were timing, the alignment of the stones with appearance, of certain stars and the changing of seasons. And that is very old. So it's older than the one that is in northern Kemet. Yes, it's older than that one. So it means, it was an upward movement from the people who were in the south. They went, to the north, but there was also, when colonization happened, we came back down. That is why we find ourselves, but the origins is here. Yes, the energy or the spirit that, made northern Kemet great. It was that combination of all the minds of, the continent were assembled in one place, which is northern Kemet, Egypt. So I think, that is where everything was refined, but Sagula, the origins, the foundation is here, which is why now there's this return again where you find all the mines of the continent are assembled here in the southern part of the continent again, following that energy that was in the north. So what we need to do is to replicate everything that is in the north.
Yes. Mkhulu, you mentioned a lot in our first few minutes. You already mentioned Isanusi Credo Mutwa a couple of times as a great inspiration. He is indeed a great inspiration for a lot of books have been written. I think there are more books written about him. There are books than books that he has written. Or maybe I might be wrong, because he wrote quite a lot, but some of it is not published, So the reason I'm raising this is, it seems Isanusi Zetu from Mazisigunene to Aikwe Ama. I've been reading Aikwe Ama since the 90s. But it seems Aikwe Ama from Senegal, for Ghana, he has come full circle. He used to write from the socialist perspective, and he wrote from very Pan-Africanist perspective. But Manje, as an old man, he too has created something called Per Ankh, which I think is in Senegal. Per Ankh, the House of the Ankh. And so his publications come through, not from white people's publishing houses, but from Per Ankh, and there's another Per Ankh in Centurion. We'll talk about it another day. So is that a sign in Mhlambe ukuthi ibuyambo? Are we coming back to who we truly are, or is it just a seeding?
No, it's just a sign, sign of the times. Why? Because all these philosophies that we've been pursuing about Pan-Africanism, about black consciousness, all of these, they haven't delivered what they were supposed to deliver, because they were not rooted in African spirituality. So it is that time now for the rising again of that energy, of which Africans have got to embrace fully for them to be able to be normal again. Iskati Senyama is over. The rule by Uset for a long time. Now Hero is merging again, to reassemble all the parts that, were scattered.
I love that. Again, just back to Credo Mutwa again. Mkhulu, son of Credo Mutwa. He wrote a book called Isilwane. Now I want us to come back to the season and the Lenkunzi Malanga esihlangene ngayo namhlanje to Anpu. He is depicted as Isilwane esengathi siyasabisa kodwa manje singathi inja emnyama. Mkhulu, when he wrote the book Isilwane, he had folk tales there, some kind of folk tales, a retelling of former folk tales that is there. And animals play a big role in that. What is the role, in your knowledge, of animals in our spirituality?
No, I think
the depiction of animals.
Yes, I think it goes. It touches on the attributes or the character which is displayed by that particular animal, which then to associated with a certain principle, because the very same principle ama characteristics are corner. Because remember, transmutation.
Yes,
transmutation. And the Isluane, or the Jackal, which seem to represent Chagalas Impungush,
yes,
which seem to represent Anpu. Or Koko were noticing that Impungush before it lives on a dead carcass, but before Impungush digests or eats that dead carcass, it buries it for some time, so that that transmutation of the elements happens. Then it will be ready, for a feast or a meal. So that is why even you look at Uchehuti. Uchehuti, the ibis, represents that intelligence. The baboon represents that intelligence because it is known to greet the sun every morning. That is a demonstration of that intelligence. So Okokobetu were not worshipping any man, but they understood the very same principle, that dominates during this season, is the same principle which manifests in this particular animal or, you know, something.
So it's there's an English word, I think they call it transmogrification, not transmogrification, anthropomorphology. Hey, that's just in case, but the point I'm trying to raise is there is a word that speaks to how a human changing into an animal, changing into a, you know, they even depict it in some of their nightmarish movies, like a vampire turning into a bat.
Yeah,
you know?
but
so they're taking.
But then
it's a very negative kind of
that is
look.
fiction.
Or a werewolf, for example.
Hey.
There's nothing positive about a wolf. Yeah, it hunts, it causes fear.
That's true.
But Anpu is the total opposite.
No. That is fiction. The Okokobet we're talking about in reality.
So this was a principle, not
experience.
Yeah.
Hey, these are principles. These are energies. Who Anpu never lived. You know, it's an energy that is forever there. Never. It's a principle that is forever there. It's a principle that was there, during our ancestors' time, it's still present even today. As long as the sun and the moon are still there, those principles will always be there.
I love that. So, since you are speaking about decomposition, we read in some of the Kemetic traditional texts that yes, he was about decomposition, but he also represents the stomach. Is it the stomach, Mankosi? Is it the digestive tract? It represents my ancestors. It's my principles also. I think Mkhulu is confirming that also. The digestive tract, the decomposition of food within the stomach somehow. So the meat that can also be used most primarily during the season of Anpu, if you are seeking to heal stomach ailments, if you are seeking to heal maybe things to do with your digestion.
Besides stomach ail, the whole process of decomposition, I'll speak from being a herbalist.
Yes.
Is that there's some herbs that actually need to go through that whole decomposition process before they can even be
used. Even fermentation is a part of decomposition.
No, but a simple thing, digestion.
Yes.
Remember, when the food is digested, certain elements are then absorbed from the food you are eating.
Innately.
So that is transmutation right there. You know, so that is why he governs that part of the body.
Yeah, I find why I'm bringing that particular part into this question is because when we even look at this figure, Anpu is also represented. You know, people will even say is one of the first gods of the dead. Before Osa, it was Anpu who was first known in the Sudan or somewhere around those parts, Nubia, Napata, as he was known before they knew Osa. They knew about Anpu being someone who guides the dead, the spirits of the dead. Can you speak about just the issue of death and Anpu? What is the relation here between death and the spirits, this principle called Anpu?
They say go to Anpu is that principle which welcomes you after you've passed on.
Okay.
That's the energy that welcomes you back into the heavens,
the other realm,
the other realm of existence. So Anpu is that facilitation. That is the principle that welcomes you every time you find yourself in that situation of transmuting, from this form into another form, because now you are in the physicality. Now we are going back to your spiritual original self. So Anpu assist, and Anpu who assist you through the Juwat, meaning he assists you through the door, and also the inside of that place, that spiritual Israel, so that your heart could be weighed against a feather, for you to proceed and be reintroduced to Umvelingangi, Uasa again. So you have to go through that judgment hall of Ma'at. So Anpu role is to guide you through there and show you good, we are in this section now. In this section, these are the dictates of this section. It means, Uguti, your heart is weighed now, depending on the results which are watched by Jehuti of that scale. You know, your heart, you know, will either be eaten or you will then proceed. As a beneficial energy or spirit that could assist those that are still in the physicality.
Mkhulu. Anpu seems to be very faithful. Seems to be a very faithful guide and a very faithful, a trusted energy to take one through this transmutation, because transmutation doesn't seem like an easy process, but at the same time it seems like kind of like a natural process. Ama chemetic, ama looks as a chemet, ama principles as a chemet, ama divine principles as a chemet. They seem to work in pairs. If they're not working in pairs, they're working in groups. If they're not working in groups, they're working in, you know, in numbers.
They work in pairs.
So Anpu Ngambona, he seems to feature. They say those, if you look at some research in certain places, Utola Anpu is the most depicted. He's almost everywhere. It's what's the English word? Ubiquitous. He's ubiquitous. He's everywhere. Why is Anpu so everywhere? Is transmutation something that needs to be happening in different parts before you're dead?
No, remember, go to Anpu. Yes, is the principle of that transmutation, but he's, you know, he's also responsible for digestion, which is the function that Anpu digestion. So, Anpu, remember, go to energy, energy, and Anpu is also associated with what you know as the dark matter. You know, that carbon, that melanin. You know, because in melanin, it is a doorway, you know, through which we communicate with the other world, you know, because it is melanin. Melanin is that molecule which sends and receives messages. So the association, no, Anpu is very strong. You know, Uguti, everything, even if when you go back, we are Zalwa. Uzalwa, you are coated with this, you know, carbon
melanated substance.
Yes,
it is powerful.
Yes, yes.
It is powerful. What you are saying, it goes with what is written about Anpu being the color being black, and gray. Those colors which are kind of very powerful and very strong. They have a strong effect.
And that's the color of carbon. Remember.
It's the color of
carbon is black.
It's black.
Hey. Meaning, Guti, remember, Guti, the previous season, it was Osset season. Meaning, Guti, there was like prevalence of oxygen. You know, here in the southern hemisphere.
Blood corpuscles, yeah.
Oxygen, that's why a lot of people were dreaming, a lot of people, you know, were experiencing, you know, some sort of hacker, you know, happening in their lives. Then this season, the prevalence of the energy of this season is that carbon. You know, so the color of the season is black.
Wow, it's powerful.
So that it resonates with the prevalent energy.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And we usually raise this fact also, which is related to this issue of interrelatability of the Neteru. Uguti, we have noticed ever since we started doing our videos, Uguti, every principle that follows the other is very much interrelated. You mentioned Uguti, Pumak Oset, Sesego Anpu and Sekmet. Kukhona nakhona interrelationship laphayana, because Sekmet nje some kind of judgment of some sort, which reminds me of this, but I'm not sure if it's the same.
No, it's not the same. Sekmet, there is a relationship because it's energy. It's a progression, the natural progression of energy. As our sun revolves, our earth revolves around the sun. Then it makes certain energies prevalent. So the energy, Anpu energy, Sekmet, they are different because it's getting a, you know, principle transmutation.
Yes.
Yes. Sekmet is a purifier. purifier the whole universe in terms of energy. And who is the chief of the healers, you know, umlaphikazi.
Ngena nini konje kuyena Mkhulu?
23
May.
Yes, May.
Mkhulu, you are quite just as a side note, you are more famous for preaching about the calendar, teaching about a return to the African calendar. And for me, the most interesting part is you do not copy and paste what is written in Tendera, sequence of what is happening in the Northern Hemisphere and what is happening in the Kemetic calendar. But you use the same principles, but you translated them. I don't know anyone who has done it. It's only yourself, the great empire of Kemet, who has done this thing of relating the ancient calendar to a calendar lesintu or labanguni, so to speak. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Why is this so important to make this calendar relevant to our local people?
It's very important because when you teach about Kemet philosophy and spirituality, and you don't relate it to what people know, because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
All Kokobetu knew to September is the first month of the year in the Southern Hemisphere. Ingako ubizwe umandulo. Do you understand? Meaning what we're going back to that point where we started. You know, yandulela. Yes, yandulela. Yes, indulele. So it's the very same thing. The Senzalo, Inzalo Yelang, and the oldest calendar Tinesiazi, your Kokobit, Indwayot, because Inzalo Yanga marks the solstices as well as the equinoxes. So all you need to do is to then take that word or Kokobit you used up there in the north, and relate it,
link it
to what is relevant to what people know, because you are describing a certain energy, and the Abantu, they've got to understand it for them, by internalize. So they won't be able to understand Mesiti Lendoza. Anpu, Anpu. Who's Anpu? They've never even heard. But
so you understand
we are so it's very important when Akeshaguti since related lezindo and then it's very important for us to go back to the calendar, which is resonate with the Southern Hemisphere energy. Ngoba all along we've been using a calendar ya Belungu, which is based on the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, completely. Yes, we are twisted. You know, that's why is wrong. Then you blame moya, upenduli. You understand? That who wrong. Nakona, you can't blame them. It's the leaders of the continent who are putting people in this, unjust, condition, because there's no reason why all over the continent. It's only Ethiopia. Ethiopia now, you remember what Ethiopia now? The 11th was actually calculated by a Roman monk.
This 11th
of September is linked to Jesus.
Julian calendar.
Yes, it's linked to Jesus. So it has nothing to do with African philosophy and African spirituality. So it's important because no one in the continent was able, when they took over office, and say, okay, for me to be a leader, who determines my time? That's the first thing that should come here. Because whoever determines your time becomes your slave master.
So the time of African leaders is determined by the mother, what do they call it? The mother continent, which basically is the colonial continent.
Oh, no, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, it means our leaders are still colonized like Makanda. umlungu wagcina athe unyaka uqala ngo-1 zikaJanuwari. Nobody all over the continent questions that. And it's such a simple thing. You cannot move forward and build a nation without its foundation. The foundation is calendar. Hey, because it tells you where you are and what you need to do. You know, for whatever.
When we are
thinking lab.
No, siyakuzwa Mkhulu, siyathokoza kakhulu. Mkhulu nje sasobuza mhlawumbe imibuzo emithathu yokugcina. Mkhulu lana ufuna ukubuyela la ekuthenini amathongo are interrelated, nama-symbols, nama-energies are interrelated. Anpu, abelaphi bengasizakala ngani ngokwazi ngo-Anpu?
Remember ukuthi isizini ka-Anpu isikhathi sokufaka amathwasa.
Okay.
That's the most important thing because initiation starts ngulago April.
Or April.
Kahle preparation happens. Preparation happens ngesikhathi sika-Oset. By the time kufika u-Anpu, process of initiating and ukuthwasisa iyaqala. Because u-Anpu guides us, you know, through that process.
So does it mean like the process of Uktwasa is also kind of like a process of dying to be resurrected again?
Oh no, you have to die in terms of consciousness. Your slave, you know, self has to die for you to be, you know,
a servant of
the spirit. When you are still attached to materialism, you understand? And this is the time, manje, it's cut so more for us to do every spiritual work. Feeding our subconscious mind with, you know, positive pictures of everything that we want to see manifest. When the time of physicality returns again in September.
In hibernation. Oh, siyathokoza kwaze kwakuhle. Umbuzo ke wesibili before ngasekugcineni. Mkhulu, akungichazele ngale anki. Ngiyayithanda ianki yakho Mkhulu. Ichaza ukuthini ianki ngoba no-Anpu na ngibona engathi uyayiphatha.
I-Anpu
iphathelani umkhulu basekhemethi ianki asiqale cela ukubuza kanjani umbuzo.
Isymbol yempilo. Isymbol yempilo ine-vibrational frequency yayo.
Bayiphatha a lot, bayisebenzisa ema-teachings amaningi.
Yes. Ine-vibrational frequency yayo. Remember ukuthi it's also linked to electricity. You know, Okoko bethu were able to actually design
some kind of electrical current.
Electrical current. So not only that, it represents the binary that you use in your computer. The 0 and 1.
Zeros and 1.
Zeros and 1.
It
also represents the male and female. It also represents heaven and earth.
As above and below.
As above, so is below.
It's not a surprise that
it's symbol yempilo, and this one, Ainakas. Nobody was.
Oh, there's no cross. It's not a cross.
No.
But ayakho ngathi ine tools eliphathwa uset.
Yebo.
As a what does that represent?
It represents, remember,
instrument.
You know, supposed to be 4 lines here.
Okay.
Which represents stability.
Okay.
To be established. Like Asa, you know, the jet pillar.
Yes.
You know, and then the staff of the kings. The staff of the kings that has a head of Set. To remind the kings, Gucci, every time you are challenged, every time you are confronted with, you know, a decision of whether to do good or bad. So, who said stuff is always a reminder. Yes, I can feel you said, I put you in your position this is your position. By suppressing that feeling you have, which wants to overtake you, which is why all the kings, they had to, carry that stuff said.
It's interesting. You also mentioned in many of your talks, Mkhulu, all kings had to twasa.
Oh, no, certainly.
Or does it mean twasa towards Sangoma?
No. It was initiation, enlightenment, the meaning Guti. You cannot lead abantu who are spirit. And you don't understand things of the spirit. Who are you leading?
I'm doing it.
When you lead a nation, especially an African nation, you are not leading people only you view or you see with their physicality. You are leading spirits that are present within their bodies because DNA carries all our ancestors. So for you to be able to understand izinto zomoya, you need to go through initiation. How can you be? Because Inkosi is supposed to be a representative of Mvelingangi. So how are you going to interpret the messages you receive from Mvelingangi for you to be called Umlomo Ikhambi? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Because you need to receive these messages. And the success yet when you
are leading properly.
To lead, So most of us and yet we are suffering. Because you are the first one who's supposed to take konto and defend and put your head there. What if I die in saving the land of my ancestors? I'll die beautifully.
Yeah,
you can't just enjoy kingship on your throne and yet you don't have land. And your people are suffering in their own land. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The time Anpu. During the time when they are going to meet Anpu.
Oh no, sure.
In a very a lot of
they will have to
answer.
No, they will have to answer.
Mkhulu, last question. Or not even the last question. Let's say, what else would you like to teach the nation now? I know you always, the calendar is umgogosha. You're always telling us about the calendar. What should we be observing? What energies should we be cultivating right now as we are in Anpu, but we are about to move into Sekhmet season? What is the energy that we need to cultivate at this moment?
I think the most important thing, because it is the time to deal with the subconscious mind.
Yes.
You need to guard against what you hold in your mind, because the negative, thoughts gets imprinted in your subconscious mind. In September, they get manifested. So you need to guard against that. This is the time. Remember, Umoya is strong now. During the last season, we are within
transforming
the womb. That transformation now. Meaning, our thoughts are very powerful now. Whatever you think, manifest.
Guard your thoughts.
That this is the time for you to be preparing vision boards, all those other
in your mind
manifestation.
In your mind, yes.
Down, all the things that you want
so that you imprint.
Yes.
And beautifully, just
easy.
Just be, just evoke now kufuna something.
Yeah.
Just evoke the feeling you will get when you have it. In that emotion, because once that emotion is sustained until September, definitely something should happen.
Sustain. Hold the thought. Focus on the thought.
No,
my shortcut, my shortcut. You see, I know
that will throw surprises.
I know I said that's the last question, but Uneli is raising something very important. The difference now between being material minded and being prosperity minded. We have abundance, but there is a thin line between being almost like what you were talking with when you were talking with Ukoko inside. She was talking about, you know, some people are being used for their spiritual power for material reasons. So there's a slight difference, not slight, but there's a difference, a crucial difference between being materialistic and being focused on your abundance.
We are birthed in abundance.
Yeah.
But now, we abundance. You understand? And the engine which is very important. Ubongwa umoya. After the good deeds and your actions. Do you understand? Uma uhamba ngendlela yakho uthumo lwakho. Umoya uyakubonga ngendlela zakhona. And you can't determine which wena hayi ufuna iFerrari. Umoya uzokubonga ngendlela ukubonga ngayo and ubona ukuthi it's relevant for you to proceed into the future. So immaterialism, you know, we can't be slaving for materialism.
Many people
no.
And died unhappy.
You die unhappy because boom,
and they leave unhappiness also behind.
These things, you know, when
they leave unhappiness, they leave people who are unhappy behind them because they're busy focused. But because once you have a lot of those material things, usu focus umoya.
Izinto as buga imali yadingeka.
Yebo.
We all need it for us to get by.
Yes.
But akusho ukuthi manje imali mele ufocus, and the more ufocusa emalini, the more uyivala.
Yeah.
You need to focus on your goal. Oh, mina ngifuna ukwenza lokho.
Imali for what?
Imali follows you
to go and fulfill your.
Yebo.
Mina ngifundile.
Lena qala uthi okay fine, this is what I want to achieve. Naku la ngumele ngibe khona. Okay. Enye into, you need to see the whole picture of a destination. Because without the destination, you won't be able to take steps. Okay, fine. How do I arrive at the destination? Then umoya will give you all the resources. Nabantu badingayo to construct your future. Umoya uzobaleta. You won't go and hunting for people there. So just be free flowing.
Flow.
You know, hey, umoya always takes care of you. Umoya okusalaya. So manje wena mawujule kakhulu enyameni, materialism, uzogcina wenza izinto ezi-wrong because you want to satisfy that energy of sex.
The need.
You understand? Hey, and it's never satisfied. Never. You get this, you want more. You get this, you want more. Omjela ama-billionaires langa ufuna ukuba na-100 billion. Yini lo muntu lo?
Uzokwenza ufuna escape hambe yohlala enyangeni uMars. Elon Musk wants us all to go live in.
The more you get, the more you want. So what's the point of living for that purpose? Philela umoya so that you never die. Ubab will never die.
I never.
As long as umuntu omnyama esaphila, other people will remember who gave us the foundation of what we are doing. So we will always honor Ubab Credo. For umsebenzi wakhe wenza, Ubab Credo didn't care about money. Ubab Credo had,
even though they made so much money out of him.
I know, but ushiye ilegacy manje. Incwadi asishiyele yona. Sifunda ngokujabula and we are proud. Uye uShikhanta Diop.
Yebo.
Utheophilo Benga. These are the people who did wonders for Mdomnyama. So these three names, Angali Bakona, Abanya Bo Ivan Sertima, Abo Ending, Alabo Henry Clark, Martin Kulumala, Africa.
Yeah.
Abala, Bab Credo, Shikhanta Diop, Theophilo Benga.
Usapila oBenga, by the way.
Usapila.
I think.
Mele simbambeni before
Simlethela eSouth. Afanezela. Afuna ngiyambona nje ngiyamanifest.
Relevant.
Interview la between Ikhambi zoyenza.
No,
Ufuna bank.
lazo launch a big thing.
Yeah, fanele nama resources because phela abantu baningi kumlandelayo. Hayi siyathokoza Mkhulu. If there's anything else, Gogo, there's nothing. I don't think there's any other thing that we can say. Mkhulu siyathokoza kakhulu. Sisuthi mina ngisuthi kakhulu. Umoya, ingqondo, ngisuthi. Siyathokoza kakhulu. Musokhashiwe.
Everything, manifestation. Yes.
I like this word manifestation. No money, qala. Hayi siyathokoza kakhulu. Siyabonga Mkhulu kakhulu isikhathi sakho.
It's fine. It's the meet.
Siyabaleka manje. Hey, press stop.
No. It's still recording.
I think I pressed stop recording, which was here.
No. Still recording.
Okay, cool.